all these kids are now going to therapy like really young. When parents don't know how to like parent their children, they're like, I'm going to take them to a therapist. And then the therapist diagnoses them with ADD or ADHD. And then like the next thing is like, well, they should be on medication for it. And it becomes like the slippery slope where then that becomes who that child is.
They make their labels their identity. And I can see it limits them tremendously in life, but they also use it as a crutch to just get out of things. Oh, I'm ADD. Oh, I'm XYZ.
Hi guys, this is welcome to Fitness Friday, and I have my special guest today is Liron. And hello, Liron. Liron is a soccer player / fitness trainer who is someone I always work out. Well, I used to work out with you. Did I ever really
Yeah, we worked out. We did it.
We talk about fitness a lot.
We talk mostly about fitness and mostly about just other stuff in general.
Yeah,
actually, we
that's
don't. That's probably only 5% of our conversations are about fitness.
Oh my God, you know what? That's actually true. I don't even think we actually do talk about fitness.
Very little. We just gloss over it and then just carry on.
Which is funny because
when we do, we record it, you know?
When we do, I was going to say, usually like we actually only talk about it during these like Fitness Friday episodes. We don't really talk about it like outside of the Fitness Friday episodes.
Well, I think it's important to have a life too. You know?
Good point.
Balance.
Okay, first of all, balance is not, there's such a misnomer. I don't even think balance exists.
No, it doesn't.
And
it's something you can strive towards, but I don't think you ever actually get it.
I just think that when you put you put that pressure on yourself that, oh, we have to strive for balance, that word, balance.
Right,
it gives
I get
people
what you're
anxiety, like, oh shit, I'm not
balanced.
balanced.
Am I balanced? Yeah. Is my work-life balance perfect? Am I playing enough? Am I working enough? Like, no, yeah. You're never in that state.
It never happens.
You're always unbalanced in some way.
Well, I think anything that I don't know, maybe this isn't for everybody, but for me, when I like something, I go so far into it and I'm so hyper-focused that like there is no such thing as balance.
I think most successful people have that too. They get a little bit obsessed about things. And it's like a healthy obsession.
Well, I think a part of it too is I probably have a little bit of OCD in general, to be honest, and ADD. The combo of ADD and OCD makes you hyper-focused on and become obsessed. Like I believe anything you want to be really good at, you have to have a level of obsession and audacity. The combination of obsession and audacity is very, very necessary.
This is your next book, Joe.
Maybe. Maybe.
How to succeed with ADD.
How to succeed. Well, I think that ADD is a precursor for obsession, right?
There's actually a study, sorry to interject, but there was a study that said that there's a gene for ADD. And what they found is that gene, when you look at like primitive people, like tribesmen and, you know, people, cavemen essentially, like modern day hunter-gatherers, that gene made them really good at hunting and gathering. So it was actually very adaptive gene and it made them very successful in their tribe.
What gene?
Like GNP 403. You know what I mean? It's a very specific gene that is either associated or causes ADD. So they have mapped this out. They can see where ADD is in the brain, and some people are predisposed towards it. But that was adaptive, meaning that was beneficial in our natural environment. It's only in the modern school system and so on and so forth where it becomes like maladaptive.
That's so interesting because for the longest time, like, first of all, if you really look at people who have ADD, most of the people that I know who have ADD grew up. They may have been really bad students because they didn't thrive in that academic school environment.
Right.
But they thrived in like their entrepreneurial endeavors, their career, and other things. Like it actually work. Like to me, ADD is like a superpower, right? Like, does it like hinder my life with terms of administrative work and getting shit done operationally? Yes. But if I didn't have my ADDness, I wouldn't have been able to have gone as far as I've gone, because when you have it and you find something that you're super in love with or obsessed with or passionate about, you're able to like focus so highly on that thing and go so into it, and it you basically like supersede all these other things because of it.
Do you think that you get bored easily?
Yeah.
And do you think that's a good thing?
No.
No.
I think it's a listen, I think there's pros and cons to both. Me being bored easily has pushed me to be able to, seek and be curious to find and do other things. But it's also hindered me and hurt me in other things where probably being a little bored would have helped me. Right?
Yeah.
Like, what happens a lot with people like me, people who have ADD, you start a lot of things and you don't finish them. Right? That's a big thing, right? Or, relationships, like you are like super like into it and then you like kind of lose interest because it's like now not as exciting, because like unless something keeps the excitement up.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest,
No,
right?
for
Like
sure.
it's just I think that's kind of part of like being ADD, right? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not ADD. I don't
Oh,
even think-
excuse me. Sorry.
I don't really know too much about it, to be honest with you, aside from what I just told you before. But I think,
Oh, so you just have like a factoid that you
yeah,
wanted to.
just like just whip it out
Okay.
in case you.
Listen, I'm no expert on it. I'm also self-diagnosed. I think people like use the word ADD and they throw it around super loosely now. Like
Yeah.
whenever,
Oh, I'm ADD. Oh, I'm OCD. Oh, I'm
yeah, like,
whatever.
oh my God, I'm so ADD, I
I'm
can't do
being
that.
ADD like right now about this thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think most people who think they're ADD, and by the way, I'm not even excluding myself from this, are probably not ADD, right? And like you said earlier, I think that like before in time, it was not like something that was so focused on, but now everyone's focused on it. It's such a trending word.
Yeah.
And it's also an excuse for people sometimes to to kind of be less than, or to not work as hard, or to be like, people use it as
Kind
a
of like
crutch.
your horoscope. Someone's like, "Oh, I'm Capricorn, so I do XYZ," and they just like excuse it off, like they don't have
Right.
to take responsibility for it because they've labeled it. Oh, I'm this. I'm sorry. I'm this. I can't do this.
Exactly. I think that the problem is when you label anything, then you can fall on that title or label to excuse bad behavior. Like I just did it myself. I'm like, well, because I'm ADD, like I lose interest in that. And that's not a good thing, right? Like,
But you also recognize that part of your identity doesn't encapsulate who you are as a person. Like it's an aspect of your personality, and you don't let it. You still take responsibility for your life. I think the problem is
Yeah.
when we get labeled with anything, literally anything. Like it could be ADD, but it could also be your political affiliation. It could be your horoscope. It could be your ethnicity. It could be anything. Like we sometimes take our labels too seriously, and we make it our whole self, and then it becomes a problem usually.
Well, what do you think about children who are now being put on medication for ADD at 10 years old, 8 years old?
Does anyone think that's good, apart from the people who are giving the medications?
I mean, I think
Great for big pharma. It's fantastic for big pharma.
it's great for big pharma. You know what though? Like I have a problem with it because I think, I think it's a problem when you put a child on medication, especially because like you're dimming the things that can that make them who they are, and then they get reliant on this medication, and then that's a medication they're going to be on for 40, 50, 60, 80 years. And anything that you put yourself on medication wise, your body becomes acclimated, and then you have to constantly up the dose. So why the fact that you start children on something like that for a thing that may or may not even be, because that for a thing that actually could have really benefited them in real life. Right. I think though, I'm actually shocked at how many people are putting their children on ADHD medication at a really young age. Because that's like I don't know if it's just an LA thing or what, but like, I think what's happening is all these kids are now going to therapy like really young. When parents don't know how to like parent their children, they're like, I'm going to take them to a therapist. And then the therapist, diagnoses them with ADD or ADHD. And then like the next thing is like, well, they should be on medication for it. And it becomes like the slippery slope where then that becomes who that child is. That becomes who the children identify as. And then that's their crutch for anything in life. For
I've seen that. I can actually think of someone very specific who is a younger person, 20, about to be 21, and they do that all the time. They make their labels their identity, and I can see it limits them tremendously in life, but they also use it as a crutch to just get out of things. Oh, I'm ADD. Oh, I'm XYZ, and you can see they're using it in a way that I think they think it's to their advantage, but you can see clearly this is like really limiting this person.
I also think it's become much more common now than it was before, like when I was a kid, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like
Because of the diagnoses.
the diagnoses have become more common. Taking children in therapy is much more common. Like instead of like instead of just kind of like figuring it out on your own and like just kind of, you know, understand or trying to create coping skills and coping mechanisms by going through challenges and difficult times. The go-to now is like, oh, I'm gonna take my kid to a therapist and let them deal with it, and then talk it through and talk it out and talk.
Yeah.
Too much talking,
Right.
Too much of this emotional ability to kind of like keep on like
Especially going
feeling
into
your
the
feelings.
past as well. Like a lot of times they'll go into the past and they'll say, "Well, why are you this way and why are you that way?" And it goes back and it's you're talking about something that happened when you're 3. And
But I'm talking about these kids who are super young, like who are not even like they're prepubescent kids who are like are in therapy like once to 3 times a week to feel their feelings, which I really believe is like the opposite of what you should be doing. Like, I think when you feel your feelings to that extent, it's actually could be detrimental. And it also ends up it's making the kid ruminate on these things and problems that they may have versus just like kind of like moving through them. Because at that age, like, yeah, you'll have a problem, but if you're not focused on it, the kid will eventually like focus on something else or do something else. And as opposed to like just like this hyper focus on like what your issue is and who you are and badly or not badly, like people are too like, I guess it's part of like the culture we're in, like, which is like this coddle culture of like making kids like you're so scared of doing X and Y, and so you just bring in like an expert or a therapist, or you want to give them a safe space, or you don't like that trigger and all these things.
I think it speaks really when you're talking about kids. It looks like the kid is the one with the problem, but really it speaks to the fact that the parent is the one with the problem. The parent is getting exacerbated, has given up, doesn't know the solution to the problem. And look, I don't think 99% of the parents I know are doing what they think is best for the kid. They just feel like they've run out of options. So I think it's really it says more about the parent than it does about the actual child.
So again, though, the other thing I think is interesting is like therapy is expensive. So is this kind of just like
first world problem?
Is it like a first world problem?
Sure.
It's like, hey, I have excess money. I'm just going to throw it to a therapist for $200-$300, because let's not even talk about the fact that no one takes insurance anymore. That's a whole other problem, right? Like no one is taking insurance. So this is all out of pocket expenses usually.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, if you have the extra money, like why not? I'll just do that. But the average Joe doesn't have $200-$300 to throw to therapists
Which
for
might
their
be
kids.
beneficial, because then they don't dwell on these problems. They just feel, well, you're going to have to just get on with your life. And that in many situations, it's probably the best thing to do.
100%. That's exactly what I think. I mean, like, I don't know, like I really keep on saying this, but I feel like I belong in a different era in a different time. Like I want to go back to living in 1996.
A lot of us feel that way. I do. I do too. A lot of
You
us
know
feel
what I
that way.
mean?
Yeah.
And where, I was forced to be bored. No one was like overscheduling my life. And I wasn't told I have to go see a therapist because I'm emotionally like irregulated, when it's just me being mad that I didn't get the toy I wanted, right? Or whatever it is. I think like less is more.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, for sure.
But just to kind of wrap up on this ADD thing, I find that interesting because it's not just kids. I also think it's obviously adults.
Yeah.
And even I said, oh, yeah, I think I have ADD. Like I said, I'm self-diagnosed. But I want to really kind of hammer home the point that I think whoever you are, whatever you have, you can make that work for yourself and make that your superpower. So if you are somebody who, does have ADD and like has trouble focusing, that can work to your advantage too.
sure.
Like everything
Definitely.
can work to your advantage.
Definitely.
It's all about how you frame it in your head and how
Definitely.
you reframe it, right? Like nobody's better or worse than anybody. The only thing that actually like makes the difference or like moves the needle is action, like taking action, doing something.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. You always want to validate who you are and what you are and accept it. And then you're going to be in your power. And then you're going to be able to, you're going to do things differently from it. Everyone's going to be different. But this idea that like, I'm this way and that's bad, nobody, I don't think that anybody thrives from that. I think whatever you are, if you're ADD, whatever, and we're talking about it like loosely, we're
Yeah.
not talking about clinically ADD
Yeah.
necessarily, but like,
Well, we're not doctors. It's just like what
Right.
we're seeing in like societal,
Yeah.
and in social media and all the
but it
things.
is, I mean, we know about like TikTok brain and stuff like that. We do know that social media is hijacking the dopamine system and making people more
Right.
ADD. And like, I don't think anyone is debating that. So as a society, we are becoming more ADD.
Well, that's funny you say that because it's true. I think that even if we may have not been that way, but our brains have become
Yeah.
so used to like these instant gratifications, no delayed gratification, instant hits of dopamine, where
without working for it. So in nature, you would have to work for every reward you got. You'd very rarely get like a big fast dopamine hit without having to like put in some effort, which I know you're all about effort, right? Like
Yeah,
you're all
I am
about
about
striving and being bold and taking action towards something and not just having things delivered to you on a plate. Like we think we want that, but that's not what we want. It's not what's good for us to be just delivered something. And that's probably the ultimate first world problem is we are given things too easy. Our life is too easy. And so we find a way to make it hard because it interferes with our wiring, it interferes with how we were meant to be. We were meant to take action and strive and have delayed gratification.
right.
So there's a big mismatch.
I think there's a direct correlation between delayed gratification and your ultimate happiness, right? Because when you have to work for something and like see it through and develop patience, right? And once you get it, you feel so much more satiated and like that you earned it.
And it lasts. That satisfaction lasts a lot longer.
Well, I think overall, like the feeling that you earned it versus just got it because it came too easy.
Yeah.
It's like more precious to you. You like actually, I think that you really kind of appreciate it more.
Yeah. You work with you know a lot of celebrities, like Hollywood types.
I don't know. That depends. I guess I know a few. Yeah. Okay.
You know a few. Have you noticed that is quite common amongst the Hollywood types? Because they're when I first moved to LA, I worked in Hollywood just a little bit and I observed them. And they're an interesting bunch.
Yeah.
They're an interesting bunch, but I think maybe there's quite a bit with that because they get so much fame and money and love and like these
Adoration.
unnatural amounts of adoration that we wouldn't, again, be wired towards. And they get it so fast. And I'm not saying they don't deserve it because a lot of them were going to get rejection after rejection after rejection, like going to casting calls and
No, but most people don't deserve it. And I think that's why most of these people are fucked up.
Right.
Is because they have no real sense of reality anymore, right? It's just like...
They do seem quite deluded after a while, especially if they've been famous
for a long
while.
time. I think it also depends on when you get famous. If you get famous really early on in life, it's really a problem.
Yeah.
Because then...
you grew up with that.
You grew up with that fame. And so it distorts your idea of what's real.
Michael Jackson or...
Right. like Britney Spears, Michael Jackson. I mean, these people like have had like crazy experiences with life because it's so pseudo reality. It's not real. If you're somebody who worked really hard and had a lot of failure and had to be resilient and had to kind of get back up over and over again. And so then when you finally found success, when they finally found success, it really meant something. Those people are much more normal.
So that
And
speaks, I think that speaks again, sorry, I think that speaks again to what you were saying about like validating where you're at. Like if someone hasn't made it in whatever avenue they're talking about, whether it's business or a relationship or family or, fitness or whatever it is, money, the fact that it's taking a lot longer for them could actually be a good thing.
it is a good thing. Because like we just finished saying, like instant gratification. If you came out to LA and you hit the first movie you got, like you came off the boat or the bus from Ohio and you got the first movie or first gig and then boom, you're super famous, it's probably not so great for your psyche, right?
Yeah, right.
But if you actually got here and like you like tried out for a movie, you didn't get it, and then you're like, oh shit, okay, I gotta go through the grind and I have to do all these auditions and I have to be rejected over and over and over again. When you finally get the opportunity and you succeed, you're like, wow, and you appreciate it more. But I will say there's something to be said for people who who are like a glutton for punishment also, right? Like I think there are different types, right? There are people who just want to be famous for the sake of being famous because they think it's glamorous, which are like a whole other group of people that I don't really have much to do with. But then there are other people who are truly like really talented and like they've honed their craft, they work on their craft, they like practice, they have like coaches and all these things to get better. That's like a different mindset, right?
You're saying there's a difference between people who's obsessed with their craft versus
Or do it
obsessed with
because
the results and the rewards of the craft.
I think the people who are doing it for the right reasons have a different, like they're who they become is very different than the people who just do it for fame. The problem is anybody can be famous today, right? Like if you have a big social media account, I know a lot of these people who just like buy 10 million followers, right? And then they leverage this fake number to become famous. And like they have like a whole team around this whole facade that's not even real. And then people don't do their homework and they think, oh, this girl has really 11 million followers. Oh, okay, I'll give her this, or I'll let her into that. And they get access to things that they otherwise wouldn't have got access to. But they didn't, not only did they not earn it, they bought it, and then they're working the system.
Yeah,
which
they're
is
cheating the system.
They're totally cheating the system. But this is the world we're living in now. Like anybody can do that.
But that's
right?
kind of what we're talking about in general. Like my philosophy on basically all problems is that there's a mismatch between how we were meant to be, how we're naturally wired, and our environment. And that's the same with mental health problems, the same with physical health problems, the same with everything. But I think all of that is really, all these issues come from trying to kind of cheat the system. Like, again, try to get rewards for not doing the work in the first place.
Right, they're all hacks.
Yeah.
These are all like hacks, like, not biohacks, but kind of like these like life hacks that you're doing. Like life hacks are kind of like cheating the system, right? Because you're trying to like find these shortcuts into getting from point A to point B.
And that might be a hollow victory. Maybe you're not prepared for that level of success.
It's a hollow victory.
Maybe you're not going to be able to sustain that. So,
but here comes the other, we can go on about this, that a lot of people don't care because they don't have the self-awareness to know any different. So, they don't mind hollow victories because they're hollow.
Right.
Right. So then it comes down to like, right. Like we could go, this is like a rabbit hole. Right. But like, I think that, I find all of it to be just where we're going as a society in this way is not the right way.
No, it's not. But definitely
for people to be truly happy and fulfilled and satiated.
Clearly not. I mean, if you look at younger people, it's depressing how much they're depressed, how easily they're depressed, how anxious they are, and how it's a kind of a horrible thing to say about them, but how weak they are,
Yeah.
to a large degree. When you
Soft, fragile.
soft, fragile, snowflakes, yada yada yada.
I just did last Friday. I did a TED talk. It's not out yet, or maybe it will be out by the time we do this. By the time this is loaded, about how we are breeding a generation of soft, fragile people. Gen Z is much more fragile than our generation was because we're not giving them the tools to be strong mentally or otherwise. And it is going to be the demise of our society and culture in life because of this problem. And we're feeding into the problem unless we put a stop to it. I think that social media, I think that screens, I think both of those, social media and screen, are the main culprits. I think coddle culture is a major problem when we are
brainwashing too. Like I feel like they have next to, again, I'm being harsh, and there's definitely smart kids out there, but a lot of them seem to have no critical thinking capability whatsoever, and will just literally eat whatever's in front of them.
Well, only because they're being told, like they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, and they are looking at these influencers, and they think, oh, this person says that eating this is what's going to get me to the goal I want, or that's what they're doing. It's cool, like that Bieber shake. That $25 shake at Era One that Hailey Bieber has?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm thinking to myself, who can afford a $25 shake, right? Like that's crazy expensive.
Especially because the type of person who's going to be drinking it shouldn't have that.
No.
It probably doesn't
Well,
have
number
that.
one, it's all sugar, but that's a whole other problem. But like for $25, you can go get like a real amazing meal at like a nice restaurant.
For two.
Right, for two. I can get a great chicken kebab, I can get salad, I can get my potato. But no, people are going, and by the way, they're going there in droves. It's not like it's like, straggling in one at a time. There is a lineup. I'm like, I can't make this up. Like, no matter what time I go to Era One, like I won't even shop there at a principal alone, but I'll drive by.
I don't get who shops there. I mean, if you're going to pick up one or two things or get lunch, I understand. But like, who's doing that grocery shopping at Era?
Okay, by the way, have you been to Era One?
I have
recently.
From time to time, yeah.
Okay, I will tell you.
Packed every time I go.
Packed.
Yeah.
I'm talking in the morning. I'm talking late at night. I'm talking in the middle of the afternoon. Who has the money to spend on that place? I'm a working person, and I still feel like it's so crazy expensive that I can't afford it, okay? You see the people who go there, they're like young girls. They're like young boys. They're like people who don't even look like they have jobs. They're like, look at they do yoga all day or have no job. They look homeless. And they're going into the store, and there's lineups. I'm talking like lineups at the hot food area, lineups to get that Bieber smoothie, lineup to buy fruits that are like, like cut up
10
fruits.
times the price of what they would be at literally any other grocery
No,
store.
you don't understand, Liron. Okay, I went there. I went there, and I had to get bone broth that was like $25 for like a bowl of bone broth that like, by the way, it's like bones and water.
Yeah, I literally made it this morning.
I bet you cost like 7 cents.
Yeah, something like that.
Everything there is so ridiculously expensive. You would think that they were giving away gold in the food, or like there was like some kind of like some type
is it
of
like
thing.
A sort of just mob mentality, like a
no, it's trendy.
Hysteria,
it's trendy. Yeah. People see it on TikTok, and they see some famous person who's drinking something.
That's a huge thing. I feel like the trend, like their like propensity towards whatever the trend is.
That's
like,
what I'm saying.
I don't think they even care. It's like, oh, the cool kids are doing it, then I have to.
You need to go get that. I want you to go to Era One and try that Bieber shake. You as a fitness person like me, if you see the ingredients, it's literally
more of an animal-based.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. Okay,
I'm saying
it's literally a bunch of sugar.
If everyone pay me to do it.
No. They're not going to pay you. They're probably going to like ban this podcast. But no, I was going to say that if you saw the ingredients and all the things, they put the word organic in front of like an ingredient.
Which
and people
itself
think
is a little bit of a scam.
It is a scam, but we'll get into that after. Yeah. But the point is, you put organic bee pollen, and people are like, oh, it's healthy. I'm going to go get that. Yeah. Organic sugar.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna run and get this shake. I'm telling you, you would have to stand in line for 20 minutes for this stupid shake. It is so beyond anything. Yeah, it's all sugar. I didn't even like it. But you put Hailey Bieber's name on a shake, and all of a sudden it's like it's the most popular thing. It's like people are so crazy.
But that's business though. Like I always get into these things and I flip it. Like I'm thinking from a business perspective. Good for everyone.
Oh my God,
If you're Erewhon, that's what
No.
that's your job in America.
They are genius.
Yeah.
By the way, I want the founders of Erewhon to come on this podcast, even though I trashed you, because brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. But we're living
I
in
don't
a,
get how they do it. I don't get why it works.
Well, number
but that
one,
is a brilliant business.
I'll tell you how it works. You overprice everything. People find that there's value if they're paying too much for it.
Right.
If you underprice something or whatever, people think that like, it's not worth it as much. Like even for trainers, right? Yeah. If I put a price tag on me that says I'm $500 an hour, it's the perception of value. Yeah. Oh, if she's $500 an hour, she must be really good. Right. Versus that $80 an hour trainer at LA Fitness, he can't be as good. When it's just all fucking lies. It's all perception is reality, but perception is actually not reality.
It's also a status thing. I think one of the things that people like makes human behavior look more complex than it is disregarding like basic human nature that we want to have status. Like the thing that most people want more than anything else is to be high status. Like more than their health. They would sacrifice their health to be high status.
Here, I'm going to give you the, what was I going to say? I'm going to give you the equation. That's what it is. I'm going to give you the equation to how like mob mentality works, right? It is have a really famous influencer, right? Drink the Hailey Bieber smoothie, right? Walking around in yoga pants, right? Put that on 2 to 7 reels. And next thing you know, someone's going to see it and their friend's going to tell their friend going to tell their friend. Next thing you know, that becomes the trending product and everyone will drive there in droves. Now, they did the same thing with Il Paseo. Do you know Il Paseo, the restaurant on Cannon? It became massively, it was always very popular, but it like hit its tipping point when on TikTok, a couple of famous people were shown eating lunch there. And all of a sudden people were like, oh, that's the cool place to be. That's like a restaurant where so-and-so is eating. I want to go there when I come to LA. And so you have tour buses literally, basically like driving people by the droves to buy around there to take pictures of this restaurant. Also, they do the same thing with Erewhon. And they're like, oh, why don't we go eat there? And then they go back home and tell their friends back in Ohio or Kansas. And so when they come, they want to go. And then they're telling all their friends. While this is all happening, people are still posting about it, like people who are well-known, famous, influencers, celebrities, having pictures of their meals at a particular place. And then like, it's like, it becomes like a cumulative effect, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens.
Yeah. But you need that starter culture, which starts from like some celebrity endorsement or whatever.
I don't think it's a celebrity endorsement. I think endorsements don't work. I think it has to look like
ones, like subtle kind
it
of.
It has to look organic, right? It has to look like, oh yeah, I just stopped in to get my smoothie, or I'm just having dinner here with my friends.
And is that generally the case, or is that?
I think people usually. I mean, sometimes it's like it happens. I think it happens. Sometimes it happens just kind of organically. But I think a lot of times people have like deals on the side. You know what I mean? Like like deliverables. I'm going to go into your place 4 times in the next, 8 weeks. And I will post about it this Valentine's. I will do 2 stories around it. I will, a lot of like now people know the value of what social media brings, or that type of optic can bring, or that type of exposure can bring. And so they want to get paid. It's like they're going to get paid for it. That's why that's what I'm saying. The idea and the word celebrity has really been like morphed and evolved. Like anybody can be famous if they have a big following now on social media. And I'm not talking like 100,000 people. I mean, even that could be good, but I'm talking, and if you are somebody who has a lot of engagement with that number, I mean, it's the sky's the limit. You can make millions of dollars a month, literally,
From just having lunch.
from just having lunch. Yeah.
That era one.
That era one. All right, no, El Paseo for that one. Okay, so let's wrap this up, you guys. I don't even know. We were like on a tangent. We spoke about like all these random things, but thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, guys, check out Liron on his Instagram. What's your Instagram?
At Beyond Fitness LA. BeyondFitnessLA.
And by the way, we didn't even talk about fitness, so you'll have to like wait around for
Yeah,
the
we'll
next.
do another one on fitness.
Yeah, we're gonna do
We
it
probably
right now.
won't. We'll probably start on fitness and just gloss over it like we always do.
Totally true. Okay, see you guys. Bye.